So glad we took the time to go on holiday at last.
Yeah, it was so chill. Just wandering past all those beautiful fields of wheat and barley.
It's a shame none of the photos came out.
Oh no, really?
Yeah, here, look.
Oh, yeah, they are really grainy. Greetings, strangers, queer and pleasant. I'm not Laura Kate Magnetdale.
And I'm not Jane Aerith Magnetdale, and welcome to another episode of Queer and Pleasant Strangers. It's a podcast with two queer trans women, that's us, we're wifey types. We talk about media we've consumed in the week and do silly voices and skits and have a bit of a silly catch-up.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm sleepy little bean.
Yeah?
I'm so sleepy. My solar rechargey thing that's been vanishing. The weather has been colder, and that generally... No.
I'm not as sleepy as I expected to be, which is surprising considering I am doing all of the work at the second.
You are doing all of the work.
I am in the midst of all of the projects.
Yeah.
But somehow I found a little island of calm where I'm like, oh, I actually feel quite awake and alert at this moment. Give it like 15 minutes into the podcast, I'll be ready for a nap, I'm sure, but right now I feel quite alert and awake.
Some of the things you can even talk about.
Indeed, some of those are things I've played.
Yeah.
Shall we talk about things we played this week?
Yeah, let's start with you, because you've got more things, I think.
Yeah, well, should we start with one of the ones that is like a new thing that came out? Or is coming out around the time we're recording this?
Ooh.
I've been playing Forza Motorsport.
I edited an episode about
that. Yeah, then they got rid of the numbers. It's the 2023 Forza Motorsport.
Ah, they've gone the EA FIFA route, huh?
Yeah. So, I've played... Look, I'm not hugely up to speed, on the Forza Motorsport games. Like, a lot of my experience with Forza as a series comes from Forza Horizons, which is their sort of slightly more arcadey, there's lots of loud rock and dance music playing as you
race a train.
Yeah, race against a train. Now you're doing a race against like a jumbo jet, and now here's a warthog from Halo. It's their slightly sillier version of like
Lego tracks, Hot Wheels tracks.
Yeah, that sort of thing. But this is their equivalent to Gran Turismo. Their sort of serious sim technical racer that is on like, here is a real world racetrack and a real car, and you tune it up. And you do, 4 laps of this one track, and they're, 3-minute laps each, and, 10-ish minutes later, you have sure done 4 laps of that racing track. And these are not usually games I get on well with, because I fucking suck at coordination, and I know nothing about cars. I don't know enough about cars to not fuck them up, and I'm not good at reliably doing, hairpin turns where on racetracks where it's you went a millimeter off the track, you're going to get in trouble.
Or you're just going to skid.
Yeah. And I feel important context for how I feel about this new Forza Motorsport is talking a little bit about Gran Turismo 7, which came out, I think, a year and a half ago. And that game was really disappointing for me as someone that focuses on accessibility stuff, because PlayStation were, at this point, 3 years into a pretty good record of every first-party game they released being fairly standardized in what they were introducing accessibility-wise. And even if, certain features like high-contrast mode weren't always appearing everywhere, and certain developers were pushing things forward more than others, you could rely on this understanding that Sony first-party studios understood accessibility was important. And then Gran Turismo 7 comes out, and has nothing in the way of accessibility settings basically at all, and what minimal settings there are there were not consistently applied. It felt like it was a real, noticeable step down from everything else Sony was doing accessibility-wise. And
was there any given reason for that? Or...
There's no given reason for it. The reason I think most people would assume, and the one that feels like it probably makes sense to me, is sim racers are very technically minded, very precision, specialized games. And they're very unforgiving generally, or have historically been in their design. And I think a lot of people just sort of took the view of, yeah, sim racers just aren't a particularly, approachable or accessible genre. There's only so much you can do. They're about being hard and technical. and that was sort of hand-waved as, like, the excuse for it. If you want to look a bit more graciously, Gran Turismo games are typically, like, once-a-console generation things for PlayStation, and this game's probably been in development since considerably before Sony's big accessibility push, and maybe it was too far into development for, like, those conversations to be happening early on, you know, things like that. But the end result is, it was a really, like, disappointingly inaccessible racing sim, and not a lot of people, like, pointed that out. A lot of people went, that's just how racing sims are.
Yeah.
And that context is kind of important because Forza Motorsport is really impressive in terms of accessibility. I am genuinely pretty blown away at how much of an effort this game has made to take a notoriously unapproachable genre and make it both more accessible and more approachable for the average player. Both for, you know, players with disabilities, but also players who have come from playing more arcadey races and are trying to make that step into, you know, your sort of more sim racing. So, basic things. There is a menu on first boot that goes, hey, here's a bunch of quick toggles you can do to get you started. One that they have on by default is driving assist, which is a bunch of settings to help with things like braking, to help with putting a driving line on track. Things that I find really interesting they've put on as default because it sort of less stigmatizes using them.
Yeah, I feel like the driving line has been on by default for a while. I could be wrong. Like, I've only played maybe the very first Forza Motorsport, and I remember, like, that being my big thing, like...
Yeah.
A friend, like, going to a friend's house, playing on his Xbox, and being like, "Yeah, there is a whole driving line, and it changes color to give you an idea about speeding up and slowing down."
Yeah, and you can
stuff.
like turn that off. But like, the default they go is like, if you're not someone who's like very up to speed on racing sims, we're just going to default these things to on for you, so you can have an easier time getting on board. There is a lot of customizability in terms of like. Difficulty, which I've really appreciated. There's like 3 different prongs to race difficulty. There is the difficulty of enemy AI racers on the track, which is separate from the difficulty of the rule set, which is separate from you can move yourself up and down in the starting order to sort of increase your challenge or make it easier for you, and the game will sort of predict based on your practice lap times and your, you know, difficulty, it'll go, yeah, we reckon if you start here in the track, this is roughly where you'll end at the end of the race, and you can sort of do your difficulty that way.
And then, like, as I noticed that as you were popping into the difficulty level and changing the class thing,
changes the predictions.
You could then go back to the position and just be like, yeah, okay. Previously, I was guaranteed to kind of win, or considered to be likely to win at every position.
Yeah.
I've ramped it up, and now I can see where the challenge is most likely to be.
And that was really nice, being able to go, like, okay, so it's saying, like, I'm unlikely to be challenged in most positions in the starting line. Cool. How much do I knock the driver difficulty up to bring that challenge to a place where my win is, like, uncertain but doable? And generally I found, like, that has been balanced really well. Its estimation of where you will finish based on your difficulty in your practice laps is pretty solid.
Nice.
But yeah, of those 3, I think they all work really well together. The rules preset is the one that, like, I really appreciate, which allows you to turn off things like having to worry about damage to your tyres, having to worry about fuel pit stop timing, being able to not have to be penalised with time additions for going off track if that going off track doesn't materially help you overtake another racer. Having the option to have rewind on, which is a feature I really appreciate in the Forza Horizon games, where any time past the first corner of the first lap, you can just press Y at any time with no penalty to just rewind the race a bit and try from further back.
It feels like a great way of actually learning, because
yes,
a lot of games, I mean, not necessarily driving, but games where it's like, yeah, get good, but we are going to send you right back to the beginning of, say, a level or something else. You're not able to just drill that one thing that you need to be getting better at. And I think having the rewind option is just going, I understand the thing very specifically in that, right? Rather than trying to remember everything that leads up to that moment.
And particularly given that, like, doing your, like, 3 or 4 laps of a track or whatever can be, like, a 10-minute process, and that's after you've done your practice laps. Having, like, my hand just didn't do what it was meant to, and I fucked up that corner 9.5 minutes into a 10-minute race and spun out onto the gravel, and every car went past me and there is no recovering from it. Doesn't feel good. And being able to go, you know what? Fuck it. Rewind. I'm going to retry that corner.
Yeah.
It makes me a lot more willing to invest that 10 minutes into doing a big, lengthy race if I'm not going to go, well, that's 9.5 minutes wasted because I fucked up at the last second.
Yeah.
And as someone that can't consistently do things, it's really nice to have that little barrier for consistency.
Yeah.
I like that Rewind is available on the first 2 rule set modes out of 3. That it's not just for the basic rule set. You can go up to, like, the middle one and still have access to Rewind.
Yeah.
Beyond that, there is a bunch of pretty ambitious stuff in this game to do with assistance for blind drivers. I'm not in a position to review those aspects. Go check out, I believe, Sightless Combat and Steve Saylor, I know of, I think have reviews going up.
And Steve's already done a video talking about it, right?
Yeah, Steve Saylor, I think we talked about it on Quips a couple of weeks ago. He did a video about previewing the game, and yeah, go check out coverage from Blind Gamers, but I'll talk a little bit about the concept here. And some of the stuff I did use myself and found pretty beneficial. So, simple one. Audio descriptions are added. That's good. If you're going to make your game playable by blind players, it's good to also describe the stuff that's going on visually. Cutscenes are really well handled. Outside of, like, big cutscenes, it's a little more intermittent. Occasionally, the audio descriptions will describe a thing that isn't actually on screen, but will be on screen in, like, 10 minutes, which is, like, not ideal, but it is certainly better than it not being there, and at least in big cutscenes, it's pretty well included. But the big one is audio cues to help people who have either limited vision or no vision race around tracks, which there is a kind of overwhelming number of options for this, from audio panning entirely left and right to tell you sort of which direction you need to move to be on the driving line, to audio that increases in volume and intensity for how much you need to be braking to be at the recommended speed for the driving line, sounds that will pan to tell you how close you are to the side of the track at any given time, narration to tell you what turns are coming up and what direction and what sort of steepness of angle of turn. There's a whole bunch. It's a bit overwhelming if you put them all on at once.
Yes.
You're going to need to turn, like, the rest of the game audio down by, like, 25-30%. And the thing I feel like from the outside this is missing is a tutorial designed to one by one introduce players to those cues in isolation.
Yeah.
And let players react to each cue in isolation before they're all put together.
Yes.
Because right now, there's not, like, at the very least, if there is, I couldn't find it, a glossary of what sounds mean what things.
Yeah.
So the only real way to work it out is to manually go into the settings, turn on just one setting yourself, practice with it. There's no, like, structure to teaching you the audio cues or to double checking.
Because I know you can mess around with, like, the pitching and stuff for certain things.
Yeah, it's very sim racing game in that there is an overwhelming amount of things you can customize, and you can really tailor the experience to what you need, accessibility-wise, but the thing it's missing is, like, a setup wizard to go through all of those things one by one and teach you how to use them and go, cool, which of these do you want?
Yeah, like even if it's just like, here is a long straight piece of track, we're gonna put a driving line somewhere on it, it's extra wide or something. Okay, the driving line is to your right, and you can hear it because of this, and these are the beeps that are going to do that. Like, take out all of the game audio, like, everything else, just go, this is how this works.
And it is, from everything I've seen from people who've, like, previewed this, particularly Steve Taylor's preview, it does seem like the tools that are here are really useful, and I'm incredibly glad to see a developer like this make an attempt at doing this. It does feel, this is the one place where it does feel like Gran Turismo is being a bit sim racer about how it introduces things. Because in every other aspect of this game, it's doing a lot of, like, very good work at onboarding gently its mechanics. There's a few of those mechanics, those audio cues that I have found really useful to keep on as a sighted player. I really appreciate those upcoming turn commands.
Yes.
I'm not very good at keeping an eye on a minimap when I'm in the middle of a race where I have to, like, be paying attention to a lot of things.
Yeah.
Having descriptions, having, like, the description of what the turn is going to be, and the little pings as I'm approaching, entering, middle, exiting, is really nice. I really appreciate the sound cue that plays when your wheel touches the outside edge of the track. So you're like, this is the line where I will get penalised if I go further. It's just nice to have a little bit of extra feedback when I'm, like, laser focused on where I'm going.
It was quite interesting because this was, like, most of your weekend sat playing, getting ready for the review stuff, and I was painting miniatures.
Yeah.
But with that going on, like, occasionally I'd be like, what is that particular beep do?
Yeah.
And you'd tell me what it is, like, okay. And although I was focusing on my own thing and only occasionally sort of picking up, I had a pretty good idea of roughly what was going on in the race.
And that's the thing, even without, like, a good pair of stereo headphones on to, like, hear the panning, like, just coming out the TV, it is still, like, just immersing yourself in that full list of audio cues, you get to a point of going, cool, yeah, I can follow what that is.
Yeah, it got way easier once you turned down the game audio, because I think
Yes.
initially you had it at full.
I did for a little bit. There is a curve to overcome.
Yes.
And if people can get past that slightly overwhelming, that's a lot of sounds happening, there is a really good set of tools here.
But it's difficult to manage when you've also got, like, engine noise and other car noise and
yes.
all that good stuff.
But, putting that aside, other bits, I really appreciate that for car upgrades, you can just press a button to go, pick the upgrades for me that I can afford, that keep my car balanced, and that get me the most, like, upgrade for my money with what I can currently afford. And I just press one button, and it goes, cool, these points are going to go up, and it'll cost you this much. I'm like, thank you, game.
Does it give it, like, is there, like, hey, if you're, like, aiming for this type of build, aiming for that type of build?
You can
or is it
obviously...
just, here is quick build?
You can obviously go differently if you wish, but the way they do it is, like, the recommendation is to keep all of the stats roughly level to, like, the sort of stat distribution it had when you first got the car.
Okay.
Just all the numbers up in proportion.
Okay, yeah.
It's like the rough, like the performance profile that like we give you with the starting car, that but better. And you can, if you get comfortable enough, you want to tweak some things, feel free. But that sort of will keep your experience consistent while making number go up.
Yeah,
And-
I've played a few of like these, maybe like the original Gran Turismo, like that had a lot of customization stuff. And as somebody who doesn't drive,
Yeah.
like a lot of that stuff is well beyond me anyway. And then getting into like super technical stuff where like everything's given like little points because they talk about like how like this suspension's not even necessarily like buying the equipment, but when you're talking about like this is the suspension setting, this is the composition of the tires.
So, yeah, those things, they put in an entirely separate menu, and they're like, hey, don't even worry about this. Don't
worry.
Look, if you don't know what this is, don't even worry about it. Go to the one menu where you buy new parts, and we will get you parts that make your number go up. And I'm like, cool, that's what I need from you. And, yeah.
But all that stuff is there if you are, you know, the kind of
Yeah.
person who's very nerdy about, like, motorsport racing.
Look, this game isn't going to be, like, the game that makes me love sim racers more than, you know, arcadey racers. I'm still going to be a bigger fan of, like, Forza Horizon. But this got me a lot more on board than most attempts at this do.
It's less gatekeeping.
Indeed. And it's not without its little things here and there. The game doesn't bring back the British Sign Language and American Sign Language interpreters that were introduced, a year, 2 years ago in Forza Horizon 5.
Which was one of the first things I asked you. I was like, hey, did they do the thing?
It's a weird little omission, and I would love some transparency on the why of that. Is it just because there's less narrative in this compared to Horizon? Is it to do with usage statistics? You know, I would love to know what went on there.
Yeah. Is it because they left it 6 months before releasing it?
Possibly. The other thing, and this is a drum I've been beating recently on accessibility, is it really feels like Xbox is trying to make pay extra money to play 5 days early a standard for first-party Xbox games. We've had 2 months in a row where there have been 2 big first-party Xbox games that have both done this now. Starfield last month, back in September. Almost exactly a month later, it happens with Forza Motorsport. It happened with Forza Horizon 5 like a year and a half ago. I really don't like this being established as a standard. They're still advertising these games as playable day 1 on Game Pass. They're not. They're playable on day 5. Don't be disingenuous about this. It kind of gets rid of the whole ability to use Game Pass on launch day of a game to go, I don't know if this is going to be accessible for me. I'll just download it on Game Pass and find out whether I can play it rather than buy it and refund it because it's not accessible and have to wait for the money to come back. And it just capitalizes on FOMO and getting people to spend additional money they don't need to do, which it particularly impacts disabled people and people with disabilities that impact, impulse control. And it does not feel like something that should exist alongside a company trying to push for greater accessibility in gaming.
Yeah.
But, those quibbles aside, I was very impressed with this. And the way I want to, leave this is Forza Motorsport does a huge amount to prove that technical racing sims can be an accessible genre. And I would love to see this be a blueprint that other developers look at and go, our racing games could be playable by more people too. There's a lot of racing games, be they arcadey or sim style, that would really benefit from having audio cues that would allow blind players to play. That is something I would love to see more, racing developers pick up on. Don't let the fact that you're a complicated racing sim scare you away from being approachable and accessible.
I'd love to see the concept of the driving line come into, other things as well, because the types of games I play are mostly like kart races, but I'm not a good driver, because I don't really, people talk about, accelerating out of corners and slowing down in certain ways, when, where, what, how do I judge it in a game that I'm more interested in playing?
Yeah, let me do practice laps in a kart racer where there is a driving line that maybe isn't there in the final race, but that lets me learn the driving line of the track.
Yeah.
Shit like that.
Understand, I think we talked a little bit about this with Street Fighter 6. If you can teach people fundamentals...
Yeah.
Which is quite important, because, a lot of people haven't necessarily been brought up on these things, especially now that we're in the, 9th console generation, and we haven't... Not everyone was there from day one about things people need to learn, and, stop the fucking gatekeeping at all things.
A great one, I know I'm still talking about Forza, a great one with that for Forza is I keep thinking I might turn off the automatic on the gear change and start manually changing gears, because there's a blind driving assist that does an audio cue when it's time to shift up or a different audio cue when it's time to shift down gear. Just have a thing I don't have to be looking at that's I hear that sound, I shift up gear.
Yeah.
And I'm like, cool, talk me through it, I'm happy to engage with that mechanic.
Yeah.
Give me something I don't have to keep an eye on, that I just hear it and do the thing. Yeah, I will start taking those training wheels off. I will start engaging with more mechanics.
And maybe I will get better at other games as a result.
Exactly. What about you? What you been playing this week?
Oh, nothing nearly so serious. We played Pizza Possum.
We did. We played Pizza Possum.
We played Pizza Possum.
This is the game we mentioned. I think I mentioned the demo when I got back from Gamescom. It's a game about a little possum trying to eat a bunch of food and not get caught by the cops.
Yeah, who are dogs.
Yeah,
and fennec foxes.
Don't get caught by the cop dogs. Get to explore our island, eat lots of food.
Eat big cheese, eat big salad, eat big fish, eat pizza. Yeah, Steel Crown.
The game is exactly what I thought it was.
Out of interest, how much more does there appear to be in this than in the demo?
So the demo, I had a very limited time with it.
Okay.
I basically had enough time to explore to that area where the fish was.
Oh, yeah.
That's about as far as I got in the demo.
Yeah.
So, but that was a Gamescom demo. I don't know if there was a public demo that was available, but so this game is what, it's about £5?
I think it's currently £5 because it's on a discount for new release.
Yeah.
But I think it's normally about £6.
Yeah. And at that price, it was a fun single night in.
Yeah, I have played a little bit more.
Yeah,
Not much.
I've been tempted to go back to it in solo on stream.
It's a very different game on solo.
Yes, I get that impression. You have a lot less ability to rely on someone coming and saving you.
Well, not just that, but like it's more like the thing in multiplayer is that it does that thing of like, and it does all the right things, I think, with couch co-op of doing the split screen, and the line for the split screen is like relative to where the other person is, so you can always track the other person down if they've gone miles away and got captured.
Yeah.
Because you know, like, which direction the thing is, and then it will seamlessly link back up once you're close enough.
On paper, they did all the right things there.
The thing is, like, even on a screen as big as ours, it can get quite difficult to see enough of the screen when you're trying to, like, stealthily, like, make your way around. And it becomes less of a, like, stealth action, sneak 'em up, eat pizza, and more of a, ha ha ha, help, they arrested me for being a round little fella.
Oh, come save you from being a round little fella.
And there's a button that just makes you scream.
Yes. And this is the thing, is like, some of the, as we say, they did all the right things in how they did their split screen.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't change the fact that sometimes if your co-op character who's off screen runs, from, like, in a sort of arc around you, that split screen sort of rotates in a way that suddenly changes what you can and can't see a little bit, and that can be a bit disorienting.
It can hide, well, not only that, but it can really hide enemies from you.
Yes.
It can mean that, like, you were all sort of set up to make your way around something, but the other player has moved into a position, which means now you can't see the guard who you were very carefully watching which way they were. Like, moving their direction, but it in that way, like, it is ridiculous fun co-op.
Yeah, it is very fun co-op in that it is a, at some point my friend is going to get captured because they couldn't quite see an enemy coming and I'm going to have to run and save them from the food cops.
But at the same time, scarfing all your own food down.
It is a different experience, definitely, when you can see the whole screen.
Yes.
And, but yeah, it is not a hugely lengthy game to get to the top of the mountain in.
No, I think we did it in like a couple of hours.
Yeah.
But it was a constant thing of, should we do another run? Should we do another run?
Yeah.
Should we do another run?
Even if nothing really changes, the core of that game is really fun. I'm just a little fella, I want to shove food in my mouth, the cops are going to see me, I'm going to run away still shoving food in my mouth.
You will get fatter if you do
giggle,
so.
Giggle, giggle, throw a bunch of bollards behind me to slow the cops down as I get into the bush and hide.
Because everyone knows cops wouldn't jump a fence.
Yeah, exactly. Let me drink my espresso quickly and then put on a little fake cop hat to be like, yes, I am a dog, do not arrest me, I'm eating food, I'm allowed to eat food, run away! It is exactly the game it seems to be, and it's very charming.
Yes. Would definitely recommend playing in couch co-op, but maybe do the classic thing of the 90s of get a big cushion and sit right in front of the telly and do it. Yeah, it's a lot of good fun. The main thing that sort of makes going back to it curious, at the very least, is the fact that at the end of every run, like, if you are captured in solo, or if you're both captured in multiplayer, you will, like, score points, and a little bar will go up, and you will potentially unlock more things. And the first one's like, here's an Orangina, you're a little bit fizzier.
Yeah, I think you run faster, you get a little speed dash.
And the espresso makes you eat faster?
I think the thing is, espresso isn't a consumable item, it just increases your speed overall for the remainder of the run. The Orangina is a temporary speed boost, but it's a more noticeable speed boost.
Then you've got the blockades, which you can drop behind you, and it will slow down people from following you.
Squeaky bones.
Little squeaky bones to make them chase that. There's the cat box thing.
Yeah, the Jack in the Box, but it's a cat in the box.
Yes.
And all of the dogs fucking go nuts for it.
Yes, from like a really wide range. There's the smoke bomb, which I think is one of the most useful ones in there.
Yes.
Because, like, I'm about to get caught. I drop a smoke bomb and I can free myself.
It's a portable way to break line of sight that allows you to, say, get into a bush and they don't know where you are anymore.
Oh, yes. It's good when you're like, my friend is captured. I have to make sure I've got a smoke bomb so that I can risk getting really close to where they were captured
Yeah.
Because sometimes the cops will just, like, grab the other person and run off to a very heavily populated area. It's like, shit, I've got to free you from the square. And occasionally you'd be like, I'm going to get you. Oh, nom, nom, nom. It's like, hon, I think you're about to get arrested. Oh, no, I just need to eat the fish. Oh, nom, nom, nom. Okay, I'm going.
It was an important fish.
It was an important fish.
Yeah.
But I still can't get over that. They arrested me for being a round little fella.
I mean, that is the whole game. They keep arresting me for being a round little fella.
It made me very happy. But yeah, in Solo, it is way more like sneak in the bush, sneak out of the bush. Num num num. Oh, I think the coast is clear. Shit, they came out of that door. Okay, hold the line. Like having the knowledge of the shape of the island and how you can get around it certainly helps. But there is a lot more to it. There's like different paths you can take up. Like, the whole, like, going to one side or the other isn't necessarily particularly helpful, because really what you want to be basically doing is just heading up. The thing is that gives you less options for places to run away from if you get captured.
Yes.
But also meaning that there's less potential food available in areas to run through. So it's like, do I go on now that I've eaten enough food to get a key, do I go and open the thing to the side of me? Do I go more sort of upwards and open more progress and eat that really big cheese? But I've unlocked like boxing gloves now is a whole thing. You can sneak up behind people and boop them. And then there's a whole thing, if you get to the top, you steal the crown from the king and eat his pizza.
It's a very, very charming little game.
But then there's like a whole mission of, hey, can you do it 3 times without getting caught?
I don't think I can, but...
No, I've been at this 4 hours. What else have you played?
I started playing a thing on your recommendation, which I don't know whether you've talked about on Quips yet before, which is the Deep Rock Galactic Survivors.
No, because it only came out like in the last week.
I thought that was the case. Yeah. So this is the demo for the Deep Rock Galactic Vampire Survivors game.
Yes.
Which we've talked about Deep Rock Galactic, but probably not for a while. It is a like the original Deep Rock Galactic is a first-person co-op dwarves mining game.
Yeah, you're mining dwarves on a giant asteroid in space, and you work for sort of a company who are like, get gold, get nitra, and come back to us with success, and all of these little like side missions of like find particular minerals or kill a particular like big very dangerous enemy.
You fight off waves of monsters.
Yeah, these weird bug things that live on this planet. Or asteroid, I would say.
Very, 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 very enjoyable game that we're both big fans of.
Yeah.
And they've released a demo for a Vampire Survivors-esque game, and the demo's really promising.
Yeah, this is one of the few Vampire Derivers that I've been like genuinely excited for, because there have been so many that are like, yes, the auto shooter is like hugely popular at the moment. Let us all get in on that. And you've now played 20 Minutes Till Dawn as well.
Oh yeah, I've played a few of these.
There's a few pretty naff ones, and even from like the first trailers was like, this looks interesting.
Yeah. First of all, so this is a top-down game. It's done in 3D.
Yes.
And very few, these Vampire Survivors games are. It looks really nice.
Yeah.
The visual style is great. They do a really good job of capturing like the main 3D game in a top-down perspective.
Yeah, and if anything, like looking at the menus with like dwarf selection, in the demo there's only one. There's the scout, but it's a lot smoother. Like they deliberately in Base Deep Rock Galactic it's a little bit more low poly.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that like we've rendered with like all sorts of interesting texture stuff. As soon as I started learning Blender, I was like, the Voronoi texture, I see this a lot.
And the demo has like one level to go to. You've got one type of dwarf, but they've got, I think, 2 specializations available.
Yeah, so basically if you play through far enough, you will unlock a different variant of the Scout Dwarf, which is the Recon Dwarf. They have like a lightweight gun that fires in 4 directions at once.
And you've got access to a good chunk of, like, the upgrade tree stuff to start, like, playing around with, like, upgrading your character stats.
Yeah, so there's something in the region of, like, 12 different stats that you can raise from 0 to 5.
These are your, like, permanent upgrades between runs using your currency.
Yes.
I really like the format of how this plays, because it's, like, it's a set number of levels you've got to get through to do a run. It's what, like 5?
Yeah, so the type of mission that is available in the demo is the Dreadnought mission, and which in the main game is there's a big egg somewhere in the map. If you shoot it enough, a huge, really dangerous boss will come out, and you'll have to kill it while also dealing with all the general shit that goes on in the game.
And this is kind of the same, but you've got to do like 4 levels to get to the level where the big boss will be, and they're time limited. So you get in a level, and you have X amount of time to do your objective and get out.
Yeah.
And your objectives will be, you know, maybe mine a bunch of this mineral, and you'll have your like little sub-objectives, or...
Well, at the moment, the all the missions are based on there's a bar at the top of the screen, and it'll have it'll be segmented, and depending on like how deep you are, there will be more things, and it'll be things like, okay, there's going to be a swarm, which means once the bar reaches this point, there's going to be like a lot more enemies just busting out onto the screen. At some point, you are going to get a supply drop, and you're going to have to like find the supply drop and grab it.
Yeah, the mining X amount of things is for the side objectives. It's not the main objective for the level.
And you don't even start with the side quests. Like you are in literally your first run is you don't have a mini map. You don't have any side quests. Kill the Dreadnought if you can.
Yeah. But you do want to be mining stuff because that'll help you buy upgrades between levels within the run.
Yes.
It'll get you the currency for buying the permanent upgrades between runs.
Yes.
That sort of thing.
So gold can be used for re-rolling options for upgrades. You'll get like a choice of 3 during the level. So every time you collect enough XP, you'll get a choice of 3 things, and it could be reload faster or make a weapon faster. At certain level points, you will be offered an extra weapon. You can hold up to 4 weapons, and each of those can be upgraded. And every time you upgrade any of them to level 12, you start unlocking the option for overclocks, which was a thing in Deep Rock Galactic. And they will be like, here is a choice of 2 things. They will vastly change the weapon in some way that will get progressively more chaotic the further through, the higher the level is.
And I like that you can both mine and shoot enemies at the same time.
Yes.
So you're not limited to doing one or the other, which is really appreciated. You sort of... There doesn't seem to be any ability to manually aim where you shoot.
No, none
whatsoever. And at least with like the characters that are available in the demo right now, they're not like Vampire Survivors characters where it's like this one fires to the left and right.
A little bit,
but it generally seems like it feels like it's firing at the closest enemy, generally.
Yeah, so the base scout does shoot, or as far as I can tell, shoots at the closest enemy.
Yes.
I have found one of the weapons that you can get, one of the overclocks for it says it will change from whatever it is now to the highest HP. Implying that at some point there might be more customization around that.
Yeah.
But the recon scout, which is the other variant of
4-direction shoot,
shoots in 4 directions, and they are always up, down, left, and right.
Oh, I haven't had a chance to try them yet. Interesting.
Until I have learnt from the Steam forums, if you get that weapon leveled up to 25, which is freaking ridiculous. I don't think I've ever seen it go that high. Not for a single weapon, anyway. Apparently, you can make it rotate.
Interesting.
But that, as far as I can tell, is the only one I've seen so far that is like, it does a specific thing and you can make it do something different. Because if anything, that recon mode is a really difficult start, especially if you don't pick like a really high like something like the shotgun as your second weapon.
But that said, the default character's default weapon aiming mode that just fires at the nearest thing never felt like a problem.
No.
It felt like it was very smartly picking targets.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you can stay close enough to the thing you're targeting, like, don't kite so far away that it's like, actually, there's something behind you that is now closer and is getting targeted.
But yeah, it is a very promising demo.
Oh, yeah.
It's got me very excited for this game. I I'm pretty... Of any company, because apparently this is going to be an early access, and
Yes.
like that's how they're going to develop it. And of any company that would do that, I feel like the Deep Rock Galactic developers have earned a degree of trust there.
Well, as far as I can tell, because it's Ghost Ship made Deep Rock Galactic.
Yeah.
And Ghost Ship are publishing this.
Interesting.
It's, I think it's like Funcom or something, are making the
Okay.
actual
Yeah.
Survivors bit of it. But it's got like a lot of the original like graphics, or at least slightly smooth versions of it.
Yeah.
It's got all of the announcer
Yes.
stuff, which works
I-
really well.
Here's the thing. I would hope that the people at the top who control the property that is Deep Rock Galactic, I have a degree of trust that they, would update this regularly to the point that, like, an early access purchase isn't a foolish idea.
Yeah.
Based on the fact that Deep Rock Galactic is a game that has had a ridiculously long tail of ongoing additional support and a bunch of free content year after year after its release.
I think it's like 7 or 8 years old this year.
Yeah.
And like, was it last year or the year before they introduced the whole Battle Pass thing? Of like, Battle Passes that you have in games, like we're going to have a season of things, unlock a bunch of like cosmetics and do special missions. Yeah, but that's free. That's just a thing that exists.
Yeah, they've been very good about just like continuing to pump stuff into that game.
Yeah.
And even if it's not to the same degree, it gives me... I feel like I can trust a Deep Rock Galactic Vampire Survivors as something that would be safe to purchase in early access.
Well, information on it is currently quite limited, but I've checked out the Discord for DRG Survivors. They are talking about the aim is to release it for about the sort of price you tend to see Survivors games for anyway. So
Okay.
that's a good, because that was one of my first questions, is like, is this going to be more expensive than base DRG? And I think base DRG is like 20 quid. So
Well, that's the thing, is like, that's not a price you can really justify in this genre
Yeah.
space. But
Not easily.
You
need
need
to
a
make it
you
really
need a
good.
developer that like. Because here's the thing: as soon as I saw 3D graphics, I was like, "Is that going to push it up above like the usual range for Survivors type
Yeah.
games?" But also, like, are they going to go? Yeah, the fact that they understand the market they're entering is
Yeah.
reassuring.
that is reassuring. Like, and we will see, because at the moment we don't have any idea on a release date. All they've said is the demo is out now until the end of Summer Steam Next Fest, which I didn't even know there was another Next Fest on. Maybe that was a little sneaky peek on more demos to come on Steam, because those are always fun. It's going to be for like a couple of weeks after that, and it looks like sometime before the end of October the demo will be disappearing.
Yeah,
And at some point after that, they haven't said exactly when, but before the end of the year, it will be released into
Yeah.
early access, and it will have the 4 main classes, at least a couple of different levels, and somewhere between 1 and 3 bosses.
and here's the thing: for a game genre like this, let's say it releases at about £5, which is your sort of range for these kind of games. Even if that was all that ever ended up in there, and it never got updated beyond that point, I'd be a bit disappointed, but I wouldn't feel like I'd been ripped off at that price.
I mean, I already think I've had nearly £5 worth out of the demo.
Well,
Like, I've done 9 hours in it.
This is the thing with this genre of game, is you don't have to have an immense amount of content for me to feel like I got my money's worth. And if you can get past that into the I feel like I got a real fucking steal here range, all power to you. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this.
There's a couple of things we haven't quite mentioned that I do want to
Oh,
quickly
yeah.
get on. So you've got the base levels.
Yeah.
Base levels will have specific unlockable missions. So it'll be things like, the first one I think is get a particular weapon upgraded to level 12, which is a sneaky way of going, I'm introducing you to the way the upgrade system works,
Yeah.
because at level 12 you start unlocking the overclocks for it.
Yeah.
And then at that point it will explain how those work. So yeah, grab that weapon, which I think is one of the first ones you unlock. Should be fairly easy after your first run. Upgrade that to level 12. Finish the dive, so all 5 levels, and then defeat the Dreadnought at the end of it. Meaning you've had a whole experience there. And I think, like, level up to a particular level for your, like, main dwarf, you unlock all 3 of those, and that's enough to unlock the next difficulty level. At which point, you've hopefully done enough of the between level, leveling up, stuff, like the permanent upgrade unlocks, because you can then go and do, like, the level 2 difficulty, just like you can in regular Deep Rock Galactic, and the enemies are, like, way harder to defeat. The mining is a little bit slower, but it is, like, a greater challenge, and then there's more specific missions to that you will be unlocking to get to the next difficulty. Like, in the demo, I think there's only 3 difficulty ratings. It looks like there are scheduled to be 5, but they haven't put them all, or they're not available in the demo. They're all greyed out at the moment as not in demo. But it looks like there is going to be a pretty sizable amount of content once this becomes available, and I am excited for it. But I think level of content and final price is going to be what sells me or doesn't ultimately. But right now, very excited.
Everything they're saying sounds like the right things to be saying right now.
For a free demo, you couldn't do much worse. We've both played it on Steam Deck.
Yeah.
It runs great for a Survivors that is in a 3D engine. I've heard a few people say they've had some issues with it, but, like, it's a demo that's already had, like, 4 patches. They are clearly listening to people about certain stuff, even though there are a weird number of people in the Steam forums who don't seem to understand what a Vampire Survivors type game is. But yeah, have you played anything else?
Let me have a look. I've not played a lot else, I don't think. We played Pete's Possum, Deep Rock Galactic Survivors. I've been playing a bit of, and I need to go back and finish this, a little horror game that I picked up on Switch called Amanda the Adventurer.
Okay, that sounds way cuter than horror would imply.
Yeah, so it is a horror game where, I'm trying to remember, like, the premise of how you get there, but basically you're up in an attic, you've got a bunch of VHS tapes that are of, like a Dora the Explorer level children's, like, edutainment show.
Right.
And, the basic thing is that you will be, like, watching the episode play out, and there will be clues in there that will help you do a puzzle between tapes to progress and unlock the next tape. And you will occasionally interact with the character of Amanda, despite this being a VHS tape you should not be able to interact with. And things get a little more unsettling as you go.
Right.
As these things do. It's been kind of interesting in that it's not been nearly as, like, it's not been nearly as, like, shock factor or gory horror as I expect out of a horror game that is using, like, the juxtaposition of children's media.
Right.
Because usually that's used to be, like, an excuse to have, like, pretty intense stuff happening.
Yeah,
like,
they tend to either go, like, really gory or just really bizarre, and occasionally just that creeping sense of terror.
Yeah, so this is more, existential dread and like the clawing, taking down the walls of reality and the rules of the world you're engaging with kind of thing.
Like the VHS tapes from Control?
Yeah, so I will give one example of one moment to not spoil too much, but an example I think typifies this game's brand of horror is Amanda has a friend who is a sort of anthropomorphic sheep stood up on 2 legs, talking, and on one of the tapes, on one of the loops through, and I'll get to that in a minute, you go and visit a farm, and you're learning about what noises the animals make. And we start getting to the noises that the sheep makes, and this sheep, who has previously been talking in full sentences, is starting to bar and is very upset about the fact that where is my language skill going?
Oh no.
Why am I suddenly only able to do the sheep says bar, and eventually the sheep is in the pen just barring, not speaking anymore? That's the sort of, like, the kind of thing where like, if a kid picked this up not knowing it was a horror thing, like, it makes me think of, like, Ko the Face Stealer from Avatar The Last Airbender.
Right.
That category of horror where it's, like, working within the limitations of a media, and that's not to say it never does anything, more than that, but I think that's a good frame of reference for it. The game is made up of multiple loops through a narrative, and I'm not far enough through to know the full extent of, like, why that is. But you will sort of, like, it's maybe, like, 40 minutes or so, I would guess, to do a run-through, and you make your various choices, and you do your puzzles and get through the tapes. And you will discover things through that run that you can take into future runs. Like, you might learn a code to a safe, and then in the next run open the safe at the start, using that knowledge you now have to access something different that will change how the next run works.
Alright.
Like, the second run I was able to get a pause button, and being able to pause the tapes at certain moments allowed me to interact in different ways and sort of change how things played out. It's interesting, it's creative, the performances in it are pretty solid, I need to finish it and see sort of how it ends, but I like the concept, and I think they've done some interesting stuff for what is like a fairly small scope horror game. That it's one of the better ones I've seen that tries to do that sort of don't hug me, I'm scared, juxtaposing cutesy with existential dread. Horror. So yeah, having some fun with that. I need to find time to finish it. This week's been very busy with things that had to be higher priority. What about you? Have you played anything else this week?
No, that's it really. I'm still plodding on with Signalis, but nothing special to report at the moment, apart from I've been down more holes and the terror remains. You got anything else?
No, that's it for me.
Well then,
time for this.
Coming. Hello.
Hello, hi.
Hi.
Welcome.
This is my door.
Yes, welcome.
I'm welcome to my own front door, am I?
I'm here today because I've got a wonderful product to introduce you to.
Aww.
Have you heard of homeopathy?
Yes.
Homeopathic tinctures, where we make an element even more powerful and potent by diluting it over and over and over and over and over again, to the point that it's basically unrecognizable. Could I interest you in any of our homeopathic tinctures? They're incredibly potent because of how little is in there.
Right, well, here's the thing. I've already got, so many tinctures.
Ooh.
What I'm worried about, you see, is that if I add any more, then there will be too many of them, and that will reach a level of concentration that homeopathy should never reach. There'll be too much. There'll be too much in here.
Ooh.
You wouldn't want that, would you?
Oh no!
Oh, you wouldn't. Oh, you probably. In fact, you probably better take those away quickly, just in case they react to all the tinctures I have in here.
Oh,
run!
Ah.
Idiot! Oh, now I'm gonna have to wash all of my crystals. You've sent all of the energy off. Back to the studio. Thanks, Invisible Bob. Breaking news! The writer who promised to take some time off as soon as this busy month wraps up has entered the 11th consecutive busy month. They continue to insist that next month will be a bit more calm, but we'll have to report more as the story breaks.
I swear I'm going to stop taking on so many projects. It's the end of the month. It'll be fine.
So, what have you put in your eyes that you can talk about?
We've watched a couple of YouTube documentaries over the last couple of days that have been really interesting. We watched a half-hour documentary yesterday called The Last of the Great Telescopes by Tom Scott.
That longer one than usual for Tom Scott.
Yeah. Well, the impression I get from that video is he didn't intend it to be as long as it was. It just sort of happened. But it is a really fascinating deep dive into optical telescopes and how they work, and the construction of what is likely to be the world's biggest ever optical telescope, and the issues with different kinds of optical telescopes, and why it is unlikely we will ever make another one larger.
Yes.
And it was just a really fascinating deep dive into the minutiae of how very big thing that look at space works. And the main takeaway I took away from it is a lot of the big fancy telescopes that look at space are incredibly fucking precise.
Oh, yes.
What was that one with the laser grid where it's like, oh yeah, we can move that thing up and down the track to like
By nanomillimeters.
By like nanomillimeters. It's like, fuck it, that level of precision, huh? When you're looking at space, you gotta be fucking precise.
Yes, especially when you're doing things like linking multiple telescopes together to create bigger pictures.
If you like the idea of learning like very minute, like very specific details of how we look at space, that was a fascinating story.
The whole thing about periodically recoating the lenses with aluminium, we basically have to turn it into an aerosol and then just let it settle in this room at like 10 atoms.
Yeah, 8 or 10 atoms thick. Yeah. It was a real good video. In a similar vein, we watched a documentary this evening.
Yes, the no-clip video about the making of the Burger King.
Yes,
video games.
Specifically the I think it was like 2006 or so trilogy of Xbox Burger King video games that includes the Notorious Sneak King, about sneaking up on people to give them burgers. That was a mile-a-minute journey from moment one.
You're weirder.
Yeah, when we started like 10 seconds in, and it was like, oh yeah, those games were made by the people who made Dizzy.
Yes,
was like the fucking start. Yeah, was the fucking start location. But yeah, that was a fascinating journey into the development of some weird brand marketing video games. The fact that those are the only Xbox games that you can insert into an Xbox or an Xbox 360, and they will load a different version of the game just because. The man who owns 4,000 plus copies of that game. It was a very, very interesting video. It's very sweet. Very much recommend going and watching it.
Yeah, 100%. It's a wild ride from start to finish.
Did not know any of those games were UK developed.
No,
that was interesting.
Yeah, least of all by the people who brought me the Dizzy games that I played.
Yeah.
So much. I didn't know they were involved in Fusion Frenzy as well. Another game I spent a lot of time playing at some point.
Yeah. The weird legacy of, like, we made all these things and now a lot of people know us as the Sneak King people.
Yes.
What else have I watched this week? I watched a good YouTube video. Ocarina of Time multiplayer randomizer is amazing by Linker7.
I saw the thumbnail for this. I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, it's well worth watching. I think it's like 40 minutes or so long. But this is a true online multiplayer randomizer for Ocarina of Time that has been made as a mod for the PC port that exists of Ocarina of Time because of the source code leak that happened a while back. And you can both of you can see each other run around in real time. If one of you finds an item from the randomizer, it gets added to the other player's inventory at the same time. And you run around Ocarina of Time as a pair trying to collect all your randomizer items to progress. The medallions you need to get to the end of the game are, the end of dungeons always gives you a medallion or one of the sacred stones. But you can go back and forth in time right from the start of the game anyway.
Wowza.
And yeah, it is a really well-made mod. It was quite a thing watching two people fight Ganon at the end together and trying to get their final hits in at the same time so they could watch their cutscenes sync up. Because the cutscenes are done in engine, which means you can see both of your characters stood in the same position, both like slightly out of sync doing the slashes.
Amazing.
It's adorable. I very much like the idea of this randomizer, and it was a very fun video to watch.
Yeah, and hopefully Nintendo will be less litigious about it than they were with the Breath of the Wild one.
Yeah.
Because that looked really fun, and then it sort of vanished, and everyone involved in it got in lots of trouble.
This is around a game that is not one they're trying to imminently market a direct sequel to, so I think they'll probably be alright.
Fingers crossed.
But yeah, what about you? You watched anything else this week?
That was it that I can talk about.
The only other thing I watched this week I'll quickly go through is I've started watching through a very lengthy series of videos on the Digital Foundry YouTube channel. DF Retro, PlayStation 3, the 1080p Dream. let me retry that. DF Retro, PlayStation 3, the 1080p dream. So it is digging into the history of the PlayStation 3 and the way that it was like pitched out the gate, and like the big selling point it had over the launch 360 was it can do 1080p 60. And it is this series is like 40 to 60 minute videos for a couple of years at a time, going through the entire PS3 lifespan of every game that ran at 1080p and going, how well did it run? What compromises were made? How true over this console's lifespan was the promise of this being a 1080p 60 frames per second games machine? And it's been very good background watching while working on other things to just sort of have a lot of information about the history of a console going on. I'm like I'm on to the third video of the series. It's quite a deep dive I've done. So yeah, that's what I've been watching this week.
Well,
time for this.
Hey, Laura.
Yes?
We've got a new sponsor.
Who's our new sponsor?
Well, if I were worried about our corporate overlords hearing about this, I might use our sponsor, because this week's sponsor looks around conspiratorially.
Ooh.
Is Union.
Tell me more.
It's a secure messaging app with complete end-to-end encryption that promises to never sell itself to Meta or similar.
Ooh.
Specifically designed for starting a union on the sly, on the down low.
I'm looking at the options here. You can reskin it to look like whatever you use for your work messaging currently, so like Slack or Discord.
And it's got one of those boss buttons like you used to see way back in the 90s of like, oh, I just press F11 and now it looks like I'm doing a spreadsheet instead of playing video games.
Exactly. When anyone sees you opening this up on your phone, they're just like, you're just in the company Slack, of course, whatever.
Yes, probably touching base.
Yes, exactly. And no one will notice you are secretly setting up a union. That's a wonderful idea.
Yeah. So that is union.lol.net. Warning, we're not responsible if you reskin the app and accidentally posting your identical-looking work chat by mistake, and then, you accidentally tell your bosses about the plans for, tonight's glorious revolution. I mean, what? Inside the boardroom of Supremacy Software.
Hi. So, we gotta look at the numbers.
Yeah, numbers go up.
Well, I mean, look, numbers go up, but numbers also go down.
Staff, because we're firing all people.
Well,
for more numbers.
Well, I mean, we might have to. We'll get to that in a second.
Excellent.
So we've been acquiring lots of studios. We've been buying up every studio we can. Just gobble. We want to have the entire industry.
Yeah.
Fewer people to compete with us. More monopoly for us.
Yeah, I'm just a monopoly little fella. I'm running around. I'm nom.
Exactly. You're just a monopoly little fella. But the problem is, long term, that's money.
Right.
Short term, we are buying things faster than we're making money. We're spending more than we're making right now.
But you gotta speculate to accumulate, right?
Exactly.
And I love accumulating.
Indeed. I am all for speculate to accumulate, but we do need enough money to make the things that people are going to buy to make the money.
I thought we had worked all that out. We were gonna, make...
We had, and then we bought a bunch more studios and all the math's gone. So,
Look, isn't that what finance are for? They work all these things out.
Well, they came to me with a suggestion, and their suggestion fucking sucked, because their suggestion was, what if you, the executives, take a pay cut, just temporarily? And I said, fuck you, that ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, I mean, of course.
So, we gotta find other ways to save money until, the money comes in for all the acquisitions.
Right.
So, first of all, very obvious, fire, every unimportant member of staff.
Yeah, the programmers, artists,
QA. QA definitely.
Oh, yeah.
QA's first fucking go.
Yeah. Why do we even have a QA? I thought that's what we had interns for.
Exactly. Worst case scenario, we'll let early access players fix it.
Yeah.
The modders can make patches or whatever.
Yeah.
But we gotta think creative. What other ways we gotta save money?
Brand deals, that could be bringing in money, if nothing else.
We put a lot of brand deals in our games, even more than we already do.
Yeah, we could, stop paying any kind of benefit to anyone who doesn't work on this floor.
Were we doing that already?
Well, I mean, I think some of the middle managers might have been getting dental.
I mean, nobody needs dental. I
Right.
mean, we do. Our smiles are perfect, but...
Yeah, I mean, that's because, my parents paid a lot for it.
Exactly. What if we shave, like, one level off of every game we're making currently? Just take
Right.
one level off. They'll never even notice one
Yeah.
level. But that's like, that'll add up, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's shrinkflation.
Exactly.
We can start... there we go. We charge more, and we make the games make the game smaller. People are always saying, those weird lefty types, they're always saying, like, I want worse games made by less people, shorter games, experience, worse graphics, all of that stuff. So we'll have worse graphics, shorter games, and we'll charge more for it. Right?
Exactly, and we'll, if anyone complains, we'll tap the meme.
Tap the sign, yeah.
And go like, oh, you said you wanted it.
Yeah.
We're doing it.
Yeah.
You are a fucking genius.
So are you. So, what have you put in your ears? What's the new sounds?
I've got a couple of new songs in my ears this week. Let me find the songs that I listened to. This one was one that I found through our lovely friend Echo. Recommended this track to me. It's called Arcadia Lovers by a band called Ghost Data. And the only way I can explain this track is that it's very beautiful, like, melodic drum and bass, that does a lot of, like, gradual layering of more and more instruments in a really beautiful way, that also uses a sample from Pod Racer, like Star Wars Episode 1 Pod Racer on the N64, as, like, the vocal before, like, the beat drops, and it's fucking great. It is the announcer announcing that you've got a new lap record right before it does the drop. And it's such a good, like, it's such a beautiful track, and this drop happens, and I'm like, yeah, I'm fucking in.
Hell yeah.
It's goofy, and I love it, and I am very excited to listen to more of Ghost Data's music.
Excellent, I've got to check that out.
Yeah. There was another track, I forget what it was called, but I saw the name of it. It was something about God Killer or something. It was something that, like, Echo was like, oh yeah, no, that one's gonna make you feel like you can kill God, and I'm like, I'm here for it.
Hell yeah.
So
all drum and bass should do that.
Yeah, Ghost Data seems like a really interesting drum and bass band I want to make time to listen to more of. Arcadia Lovers, absolutely beautiful track. Other songs I listened to. I listened to a track called Electricity by the weirdest band name I'm going to say today. Sister Wife Sex Strike. Yep. Yep. Yeah, I had a similar moment with that, but the track's really good. The track's called Electricity, and it is a very frantic and fast-paced folk punk track.
Excellent.
And without spoiling too much, it starts with a how many folk singers does it take to screw in a light bulb joke that is used to set up the jump into that very fast pace that I think works really well.
Excellent.
But it's just this very, like, I can't overstate how fast-paced this is for a folk punk track, about just sometimes wanting a less modern world when everything's a bit overwhelming. It's a really, really fun track. I think it works very well.
Nice.
And the last new track I listened to this week that I thought was worth noting was a track called Save the Planet, You Dumb Shit, by Joe and the Shit Boys.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Look, I found some fucking band names today.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. It's a very sort of, like, raw, angry punk track about feeling a little bit, nihilist isn't the right word, a little bit frustrated about personal responsibility for global warming being sort of pushed on people by corporations, and, like, the idea that corporations, like, just do this, you dumb shit, that'll fix global warming, just recycle more, just take shorter showers, you dumb shit, and sort of the unspoken thing that the song is clearly getting at is, yeah, you're being told you're being a dumb shit if you don't do X, Y, and Z to save the planet, when the people
by the 6 or 7 people who are actually fucking up
exactly,
the planet.
the people who are telling you that are by and large the people who could fucking do something about it.
Yes.
So yeah, those are some new bits of music I heard this week.
But didn't you listen to a whole bunch of Dessa you didn't know was Dessa this week as well?
Yeah, it wasn't new music, but I did. So, weird confluence of events. I introduced someone to the music of an artist I really love called Dessa. They then came back to me and went, thank you for introducing me to Dessa's solo stuff. To which I went, Dessa has stuff that isn't solo stuff? To which I learned there was a band called Doomtree that Dessa is a member of and like does some vocals in, that I have definitely heard before because I had them saved in my the music I like, because I found them as a weather track on Welcome to Night Vale.
The weather.
Yeah, so that's a whole little circle of things that happened. So I listened to some Doomtree going, oh yeah, that is Dessa in it. Did you listen to anything this week?
I had a weird one with the weather recently on Night Vale. I was like, I know this track. Why do I know this track? I definitely know this weather. It's Revolution Lover by Left at London. I was like, hang on. I do know this track, and I do. But what I've been listening to mostly this week is Smooth Groove. Do you remember Max?
Oh, yeah.
He used to do like a lot of a cappella stuff, occasionally appeared on the Game Station podcast and optional. Does a cappellas of video game music and has done for many years. But like there's in the last 3 weeks there's been 3 new tracks, which is the first new stuff in about 2 years. So he's done a version of Babom Battlefield, the Hateno Village music from Breath of the Wild, and from Shovel Knight High Above the Land. I don't really know the Shovel Knight music very well, because I was not very good at that game, but I enjoyed what I played. But yeah, it's all really good versions. It's really well done, beautifully done. I'm always impressed by a good a cappella, especially when someone can do like has a big vocal range to do all of the bass stuff and all of the high stuff without like modifying any of it. It's just like I just had to record until I got the right version. Yeah. It's nice to hear Max back doing audio. Yeah. Have you got anything else?
That's about it for stuff I listen to.
Well then,
time for this.
Hello and welcome to our art appreciation show. We have been making lots of art for Mummy, and we have put it up on the wall. And we're going to talk about what we think of the art like they do in Mummy's programs. Yeah. So here we have a sculpture made on the carpet with lots of Play-Doh. I see that you have made the sculpture here, and it has many different colours, and it's built right into the very carpet here so that it will stand up better.
Exactly. It was very important that this statue be one with the carpet to symbolise the connectedness of the grass and the horsey that I made.
Is mixed medium. Mixed medium piece of carpet and dog fur and Play-Doh.
The fur is like the horse fur.
Is a very good horsey that you have done, and now we move over here where we have a snow angel that I made on the bathroom floor with Mummy's special powder that she uses to make her face not shiny.
Indeed. I suspect that she will not be happy about the special powder being on the floor, but that is part of what makes art art.
Sometimes art has to be a little bit controversial, dangerous, but not like when you touch the hot things.
No,
that would be
not that dangerous.
No. But like dangerous.
As in, Mummy might be sad and might be angry, but it's art. So
it's art, and art is good and important and special. So now we move on to this piece that we call Pudding on the Wall. This was a joint effort. I used all my pudding from yesterday that I had saved in my pockets. And you did all the finger work here. I like the brush strokes here on this bit of wall.
It is an interactive piece because you can lick it and it tastes of pudding.
It does taste of pudding. It's all chocolatey and I see that here. Is this a kitty here that you have done here?
It's a kitty.
It's a big kitty, and I like that as you go up the stairs, it tells like a whole story of the kitty and the kitty's day, and then the kitty goes to bed, and you can follow it all around. It's like the Bux tapestry that we went to see that time. It was like a big roll of kitchen paper that had lots of pictures that someone had sewn on it. But this is up the stairs and made of pudding. So this has been our appreciation show. We hope to show the rest of our gallery off to Mummy when she gets home from work. So we'll see you. Thank you for coming. Bye!
Professor Blackheart, is it?
Oh, yes. Sorry, is this today?
Yes, well, I'm here from the Homeowners Association. I think you'll understand there have been some violations.
Oh, have there now?
Yes, as you know, we are a very proud neighbourhood. We've got some award-winning gardeners, and we are all known for having such incredibly beautiful lawns, even in the middle of a drought within the area. We have all done our best to make sure that our gardens look absolutely beautiful.
Yes.
We are a very close-knit community here, as you know. We have our barbecues and our parties, and we are known for our modest displays of festive lighting around the holidays.
Yes. And the point being,
We have noticed a lot of quite loud work going on day and night at your property.
well, a certain degree of home renovation is permitted under the HOA, reasonable home renovations.
Yes, and people have been complaining about the rumbling from the suspected underground lair of some sort.
I mean, suspected means you don't know for certain, and even if you did know for certain, your HOA wording is very vague, and reasonable home renovations might include a secret underground lair. You haven't been very specific.
Well, we did make aware that we were very unhappy about the use of that 3-mile low loader and the subsequent rocket that was lowered through your retracted garden. Now, the grass does have to be real. It is right here, as you will find in the Homeowners Association agreement that you will have been issued with when you purchase the property.
It's real grass, genetically modified to be very hardy.
Well, I mean, we are very specific about the actual requirements of the grass itself, and it does have to be, one of the 3 approved types. And again, the whole retracting back of the grass and lowering large intercontinental ballistic missiles.
Well, my thinking was that if the missile was stored underground, it was no longer a thing that the Homeowners Association would see, and therefore would be fine under the rules. But if you'd prefer, I could get it back out from underground and...
No, that won't be necessary, Professor Blackheart.
Make some creative use of it.
Well, the other thing was there was a Homeowners Association meeting last week, and everyone is required to attend them and bring something for the potluck.
I did do that.
A bound and gagged international spy is not really something we were thinking maybe a casserole.
I was looking for something that no one else had said in the group chat they were going to bring, and everyone else had already brought all of the standards, so I thought it would be fun.
You thought it would be fun to bring a dinner-jacketed, blabbering international spy who you had melted with some kind of mind ray?
How often do you see that? It's a novelty.
Increasingly more often, Professor Blackheart, since you moved into the area.
Again, there's nothing in the HOA that says I can't.
Well, then, we would like to talk about the fact that nobody's televisions have been working properly since you installed the missile, and there are concerns there might be some radiation leaking from the property.
How about this? Give me 1 moment, and I will deal with it so that the missile is no longer any of your concern. Peons, raise the nuclear deterrent blast shield around the property and start raising the missile. It's been lovely to see you. I will get on top of all of your demands any moment now. I've got to get inside. I will take it all under consideration. Goodbye.
I don't think he's bringing back a casserole. Do you know what I want to see more of?
What do you want to see more of?
Social Justice Warriors.
Social Justice Warriors?
Yeah.
Right, Larry?
Right, Larry, how you doing?
Oh, yeah, starting to get the end of year snooze on.
Oh, the winter sort of need to have a nap at all times.
Yeah, I'm basically ready to hibernate like a large bear.
Oh, I understand. I'll get it.
You doing all right, mate?
Oh, I'm doing all right. I've been keeping an eye on all those video game layoffs that have been going on this past couple of weeks. It's been fucking wild.
Yeah, terrible.
So,
mate, terrible.
more so than it's always been bad, but it's been particularly bad these last few weeks. But it's brought me back to thinking about something I haven't thought about, in a while.
Right.
Which is specifically who these layoffs in video games and generally in tech always seem to hit when hit first when the big executives overexert themselves, and that is QA departments.
Yeah.
Like people who work in QA, quality assurance, where their job is to find all the stuff that's broken and document it, and so that it can all be fixed. Usually, are the workers who are they're paid, some of the lowest wages in tech companies. They're given some of the least job security. They're treated as absolutely disposable. And the first time that any sign of shit going south happens, they're the first ones who end up getting jettisoned.
Yeah, well, not only jettisoned, but also blamed for a lot of problems. If a game comes out with too many problems, the people are like, well, the QA department didn't do their job well enough.
Having spoken to a bunch of people who do QA, is often very far from that. Usually, QA have found all those issues that make it to the launch version of a piece of software, and they've reported them all up the chain, and someone higher up the chain has gone, not a priority, and, gone, too much money to bother fixing. And,
or at least, until long after the games come out, maybe there'll be a roadmap, maybe there won't, maybe said roadmap will be abandoned 6 months in the release,
But yeah, it's depressing because there's a very good reason that most of the video game unions that have started to form in the last couple of years have primarily been QA workers at various companies because
it's been good to see.
It's been good to see, but it is a reality that most of them have been QA workers unions because of the fact that they are usually the bottom of the rung. They don't have a lot of the same protections. They are usually, honestly, treated pretty shittily, sectioned off in their own area away from the rest of the company and treated like they're not as important.
If there are any benefits in sort of companies, then, they're not treated as being worthy of such.
Yeah, and, there is, a real skill to doing QA work, and, it is something that, the more experience you have with it, the better you get at it.
Yeah.
And, there is a real problem with the lack of, senior long-term talent in QA, because so many of them get, absolutely, fired at the end of projects. Enough times that they go, fuck it, I need to find something else in this industry to do.
Getting to a point where, I need a bit of, long-term security and plans for the future.
There is a real if you're someone who plays, games or, uses software and if you're going to put the blame on QA, which I don't think you should, but if you're going to do that, you should want QA to be treated better because, if nothing else, job security means people can stick around longer and get, have more experience with their job. That certainly won't hurt the end result of games if people have the job security to get, to stick with the thing they want to be doing.
Being able to identify a problem, being able to, see things in a way that, is very,
having experience on what's going to break a game and on how to fuck a game and what the common pitfalls are in that. That's experience you get from doing the job.
Yeah, exactly. And also then being able to correctly report that. It's enough to. It's one thing to go, oh well, this is broken. It's another thing to go, I've identified this thing. It is repeatable in this way. These are the steps that go to do it. And maybe even with enough experience going, I suspect it is an issue in this sort of area, and helping direct in that way, or being able to identify that, hey, I was testing for 3 hours and the game started to slow down, so there's a memory leak or something somewhere.
Yeah. It is an aspect of the tech industry that in particular really needs a bunch more support than it's getting.
And it's clearly something that's become a much bigger issue more recently, and I don't know if that is the complexity and size of games, but like I remember having games in the early 2000s like, well, yeah, we released 2 patches for it. They were available on our website. You might even get them on a cover disc from some random magazine. That is how a lot of us got patches back in the day, and that was it. It worked, and it was fine. You know, we didn't have, you know, oh yeah, we're going to patch it every other day, constantly for however many years.
I mean, video games have gotten increasingly, infinitely more complex, and people are being given a lot less job security to be the ones, you know, making sure those, you know, to make sure those projects get held together. And, you know, the people that are, you know, trying to find every single possible bug you might encounter in a 150-hour RPG deserve all the fucking support in the world.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Oh, fancy okay.
Oh, yeah.
Good dog, mate. Good dog.
Good luck.
Right, I think I will pop the kettle on.
Oh, sounds lovely.
Nice.
So, you do things.
Yeah, I do.
Well, when you're not doing all the other things of watching, playing, and listening, what do you do, and where can people find it?
You can find me at Laura K. Buzz pretty much everywhere. Laura K. Buzz on Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, YouTube, Patreon, that's the one that pays the bills. Blue Sky, Mastodon, just Laura K. Buzz pretty much everywhere. This week's episode of Accessibility is about Forza Motorsport. You can go watch like 20 minutes of me talking about that game in a bunch of depth and showing a bunch of stuff off. I've got a book coming out in a couple of weeks. Stories of Autistic Joy. It's basically gender euphoria, but about happy positive autistic stories rather than trans stories. That's coming out on October 19th. Check it out. I got a bunch of other stuff, but you're gonna have to wait for that. What about you?
Well, I don't have unified branding, but I do have a link tree to tie it all together. That's linktree.ee/Janiac, JANEIAC. I got music, I got t-shirts, I got all sorts of things, I've written some things. You can find it all over there. My most important one is patreon.com/stonedmonkeyradio. For as little as $1 a month, you can help me justify a 76-hour work week and help me beat myself up about pathological demand avoidance until I make more things for you to enjoy. But that's all my good stuff. And I wrote a piece for Stories of Autistic Joy, so you should double read it, definitely, please. Laura?
Yeah?
Will you sing us out, please, darling?
Until next time, be a stranger.